Tucker Carlson goes quiet after a guest issues a stunning prediction on what will happen in the case of a hypothetical Trump victory. Guys, it's a little bit scary. You're going to see what I mean, and we're going to get right into it. But first, everybody, do me a big favor here. Like our video, share it around, and if you are new, subscribe to the Resist the Mainstream YouTube channel so we keep bringing you guys this great content. As always, everybody, I'm your host, Darian. Let's get into the video.
Let's say Trump wins 3 weeks from today. What happens? The Democratic Party as you said, a lot of Democrats, maybe the majority, believe that Trump becoming president again is the worst thing that ever could happen. So how do they respond to that?
I say this not flippantly. I think it will be the cause of the greatest mental health crisis in the history of the country. I think tens of millions of people will question their connection to the nation, their connection to other human beings, their connection to their vision of what their future for them and their children could be like. And I think that will require an enormous amount of access to mental health professionals. I think it'll lead to trauma in the workplace. I think there'll be some degree of
Are you being
protest.
serious?
100% serious. 100% serious. I think there'll be alcoholism. There'll be broken marriages.
What?
Yeah. They think he's the worst person possible to be president, and having won by the hand of Jim Comey and Fluke in 2016, and then performed in office for 4 years and denied who won the election last time, and January 6th, the fact that under a fair election, America chose by the rules pre-agreed to Donald Trump again, I think it will cause the biggest mental health crisis in the history of America. And I don't think it will be kind of a passing thing that by the inauguration will be fine. I think it will be sustained and unprecedented and hideous. And I don't think the country's ready for it.
A quick little point of disagreement here. I think tens of millions of people already question their connection to the nation. In fact, many of them hate this country and routinely talk about how terrible it is. But with all that being said, totally agree with the larger point. And it makes complete sense. I mean, let's just look at how BLM was acting during the summer of love, as I like to call it, back in the summer of 2020. You think those were happy, stable people who were okay with not getting their way politically? It's not just those guys either, okay? It's also just these crazed college liberals who are just frothing at the mouth over Trump. They've been brainwashed academia for years and years into hating Trump, and it shows. Just remember all that liberal rage back in 2016 when Trump won? Well, yeah, if you thought it was bad back then, get ready for what is coming next. It's going to be ugly.
So mental health crises often manifest in violence.
Yeah, I think there'll be some violence. I think there'll be workplace fights. There'll be fights at kids' birthday parties. I think there'll be protests that will turn violent. I hope they're not, but I think there will be some. But I think it will be more. It'll be less anger and more a failure to understand how it could happen. You know, like the death of a child, or your spouse announcing that your wife announcing she's a lesbian and she's leaving you for your best friend. Like a something that's so traumatic that it is impossible for even the most mentally healthy person to truly process and incorporate into their daily life. I hope I'm wrong, but I think that's what's going to happen for tens of millions of people, because they think that their fellow citizens supporting Trump is a sign of fundamental evil at the heart of their fellow citizens and of the nation. That's how they view it.
Well, that's very heavy.
Yeah. So that's one thing I think will happen. And then I hope that Trump handles it well. I hope that he recognizes both his responsibility and his self-interest, and that he chooses in his words and in his cabinet and White House appointments, nominations, and in his initial legislative agenda. I hope he sees a confluence of interest between minimizing that mental health crisis and the success of his presidency. And I think he might. I'm bullish on him seeing the alignment of those two things.
Wow. And if he loses, what happens?
Well, it'll depend on how he loses. It'll depend on if it's close And if he and his supporters see wrongdoing in casting and counting of ballots in the 7 states, it's very difficult for me to imagine her winning by enough that doesn't happen. I've been disappointed in the efforts in the states. There are some in every one of the 7, but they're not mature enough to prepare to explain to people elections are messy, but this one wasn't stolen. Our electoral votes were awarded correctly to Kamala Harris. I think if that somehow goes well, and if Donald Trump himself doesn't challenge the results, Twitter can do what it wants to do. I think that the negative impact of her winning on the psychology of the losers will not be as great, but I don't think it'll be nothing.
Yeah, for sure. It's not going to be as bad as the left's meltdown. I mean, and his predictions about mass mental health issues with the left, I think they're very obviously going to come true if Trump wins. Let's just look at the COVID, for example, the whole COVID outbreak. Look at how crazy people went. I mean, do I need to remind everybody what happened during that? I don't know. What is it? Was it like 3 years we had to deal with that crap? You know, it's insane. I mean, even now, there was just a thing. Just last week, we have counties in the San Francisco Bay Area that are introducing mask mandates. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. Look it up. It's a real thing. So, yeah, it's sick. They're mentally ill, and that's probably not going to change anytime soon. Hate to say it, but just look at the reality of it, you know?
I think there'll be all sorts of things. Lawfare, replacing Biden with her after, you know, Trump had spent millions trying to beat Biden. The media's completely, full body on the scale. I think all those things will lead to mass skepticism that the election was fair. And I think it'll be up to luck that the result is clear cut enough that people don't feel reflexively it was unfair. I think it'll be up to what Trump's attitude is. And I think it'll be up to the governors of the states, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, and most of the battleground state governors are Democrats, to be as transparent and clear about any irregularity and its potential impact on the outcome. If all that happens, and Kamala Harris decides to, in the transition and in her inaugural address and in her legislative agenda, to be gracious, I think that we could be in a decent place. I think there'll probably be a Republican Senate, and I think people have failed to game out. If there's a Republican Senate, a Democratic House, a Democratic president, all of MAGA and those unhappy with her winning will put their chips in the Senate and say it's up to the Senate to keep her from turning this into a far left country. And that goes first and foremost in the initial instance to nominations. I think it'll be very difficult for her to nominate anyone acceptable to the left who can be confirmed by that Senate.
If right-wingers do that, they're going to be putting themselves up for a massive bout of disappointment. All right, let's just look at what Republican Congress has done right now to oppose Biden. Let me think. Just about nothing. What they have done is help Democrats send a bunch of money to fund the foreign nations like Ukraine and Israel, securing the borders of those nations while doing absolutely nothing to secure the very porous southern border in the United States. So I guess we can count on a Republican Senate to do that. Yeah, I know. Really exciting, isn't it?
So they'll just keep people in place.
Well, I mean, you can't be acting forever. It's very limited what you can do as an acting secretary. And she'll want her people. So I worry a lot about that. One of the huge dysfunctions in this country, regardless of party, and every president will tell you this and probably has, is the difficulty of getting your people in place because of the background checks and the confirmation process. You think about her, she started running for president not that long ago. She hasn't had time to start a rigorous transition. I really do worry about her, even if she emerges from this election with the country in love with her, not a whole country, but enough to have a honeymoon. If she rises to the occasion, if world leaders don't seem poised to take advantage of her in some way, even if all that happens, I really do worry about her getting a government in place because I don't think a Republican Senate is going to confirm the kind of people who Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and AOC are going to demand her to nominate.
You hear people mutter darkly about some kind of civil conflict, the possibility of that.
Yeah.
Are you worried about that?
Less than most, but I don't dismiss it entirely. Again, I'm a big believer in governors, right? Civil conflict will take place in the state of some governor, by definition. I hope the governors all have great bipartisan plans for minimizing this and for policing peaceful protests and not allowing them to escalate, but not trampling on the First Amendment. I think we could have violence regardless of who wins. I think both sides are capable of that. I think the chances of it are minimized if the losing presidential candidate makes it clear they don't want that to happen, and if the governors are vigilant in devising plans to balance public safety with First Amendment. If those things happen, I'm not all that concerned about violence. If those things don't happen, I'm deeply concerned about it.
Friendly reminder that Kamala Harris posted a bail fund to help bail out the rioters during the BLM terrorist riots of summer of 2020. Arguably treasonous behavior, I would say. So will she encourage a lack of violence? Doubtful.
Mark Halperin, I am grateful, I mean it, that you are still a powerful voice in media after all these years.
Well, you're very nice. It's great to be here, and your place in the world, as you know, we have lots of mutual friends who say to me and to other people you know, what's happened to Tucker?
What's happened to Tucker? He got based and is on his own now, no longer controlled in any capacity by the corporate puppet masters. And we love it. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. As always, please be sure to comment below. Let us know what you liked about the clip, what kind of content you'll see in the near future, and we'll see you guys again soon. Thank you, and God bless.